With the change that the IndyCar broadcast will be moving from NBC to Fox Sports, there's now a lot of potential new viewers for the series, as well as a lot of new eyes on it. I have a friend that's interested in getting into IndyCar after hearing me ramble about it so much, so I decided to make this video so that they'll have a guide for the 2025 IndyCar season. Hi, my name is Moon. I like talking about fast cars, and whether you're interested in getting into IndyCar, need a refresher, or a friend that's interested in getting the series, this is the video for you, because this is my basic guide to IndyCar. IndyCar is a form of open-wheel car racing that mainly races in the United States. There are two racing series with the IndyCar name, the NTT IndyCar series, usually just referred to as IndyCar, and Indy NXT, the feeder series for IndyCar. The cars used in IndyCar are single-seaters, and a team will either have a V6 engine manufactured by Honda or Chevrolet. Each IndyCar team doesn't build their own car, and instead every team essentially has the same machinery, so there's more of a level playing field. Halfway through the 2024 season, hybrid engines were introduced, and I will admit that I still don't understand how they work exactly. From my understanding, it's similar to the hybrid system used in Formula 1, where there's a battery that needs to be saved or charged while on track, and the hybrid system gives the car more power to attempt overtaking. Introducing a hybrid system in the middle of the season went as well as you expect, with a lot of hiccups that I hope get sorted out in the off-season. If you want a better understanding of how the hybrid system works, I've linked the official breakdown posted by IndyCar on their official website. It can explain the hybrid system to you better than I ever could. There are 11 teams that compete in the upcoming season. Unlike most racing series, IndyCar doesn't have a team championship, and instead each point a driver scores goes towards the manufacturer's championship, which is between Chevrolet and Honda. Now originally in this section I wanted to talk about both the teams and the drivers, but silly season is still going on and the driver lineup isn't confirmed, so instead I'll do a brief rundown of the teams, and when the driver lineup does get confirmed, I'll do a separate video. If you know a thing or two about motorsports, then you may have heard or are familiar with the legacy name of Andretti. Andretti Global has been racing in IndyCar since 2003 and currently has 3 confirmed entries for the upcoming season, all with Honda engines. Andretti has acquired many wins during their time in IndyCar, and last season one of their drivers, Colton Herta, finished second in the championship with a strong contention of winning this season. Owned by the man of the same name, AJ Foyt Racing has been racing before IndyCar was even called IndyCar. They'll be using a Chevrolet engine and have 2 confirmed entries. They've been a bit of a backmarker team that's slowly been on the rise, breaking into the top 10 last season. Formula 1 fans interested in IndyCar will recognize this papaya orange. While the team as a whole has been competing since 2001, it didn't get the McLaren name until 2020. McLaren races with Chevrolet engines and has 3 confirmed entries. They are a strong contender for the Drivers' Championship this season, with one of their drivers, Pato O'Ward, having won 3 races last season. Home to the most recent IndyCar champion for the past 3 years, Chip Ganassi Racing, also owned by the man of the same name, has been racing in IndyCar since 2000. Their 3 cars will be using Honda engines this season, and one of their drivers, Alex Palou, is hoping to get his 4th Drivers' Championship in a row with Chip Ganassi Racing. Most of these teams are owned by the people these teams are named after, so I'm going to stop saying the owners' names. Dale Coyne Racing, the team, has been racing in IndyCar since 2008, runs 2 cars, and uses Honda engines. They're known for having a revolving door of drivers during a season, though with the new charter system, there was a rule set up specifically called the Dale Coyne rule to hopefully prevent that. Ed Carpenter Racing has been going since 2012 and is one of 2 teams that has their owner as one of the regular drivers, though that will no longer be the case going into 2025, as Ed Carpenter will now only be racing in the Indy 500. The team has 2 confirmed entries and will use Chevrolet engines. A bit new to the IndyCar scene, Junko Hollinger raced in IndyCar from 2017 and 2019 before taking a 2-year break and returning back in 2021. With 2 entries and a Chevrolet engine, Junko's Hollinger has been on somewhat of a steady rise if last season is anything to go by. I'm hoping they get at least 2 podiums this season, more than the one they got last season. Mara Shank, or MSR as it's shortened to, has been racing in IndyCar since 2017 and has a technical partnership with Chip Ganassi Racing. They have 2 confirmed entries, both of which are sponsored by SiriusXM, and use a Honda engine. The newest addition to the grid, Prema, will be entering their first season in IndyCar this upcoming season. This Italian team isn't new to racing though, having massive success in FRECA, Formula 3, and Formula 2. Prema will have 2 driver entries and will be using a Chevrolet engine for their first foray into IndyCar. As IndyCar is mainly an American-dominated sport, I'm interested to see how this European team performs. The other team to have one of their owners as a driver, and it has been confirmed that Graham Rahal will be driving in the 2025 season. Rahal Letterman has been racing full-time in IndyCar since 2004. They run 3 cars, all with Honda engines, and if the name Letterman sounds familiar, it's because the team is partially owned by late-night talk show host David Letterman. Lastly is Team Penske, which has been racing in IndyCar since 1968. They have 3 confirmed entries and use a Chevrolet engine. A lot could be said about Team Penske, especially since IndyCar as a whole is owned by Roger Penske, who also owns Team Penske. I don't want to go too deep into it, and I'll let you make your own conclusion about the fairness of it all, since it is a bit of a controversial topic. There are 3 different types of racetracks that IndyCar races take place on: road courses, which are tracks built specifically for racing, street tracks, which turns the streets of certain cities into racetracks, and ovals, which are oval-shaped tracks. They're pretty self-explanatory. Before I talk about certain races, let's talk about what happens during a race weekend. A typical race weekend consists of one practice session on Friday, one practice and qualifying session on Saturday, and then one race on Sunday. Qualifying determines the placement of where a driver starts the race on Sunday. Road courses and street tracks have different qualifying procedures than ovals. Round 1 starts with 2 groups running the track for 10 minutes, each driver trying to set the fastest lap time. The top 6 in each group advances to the next round of qualifying, with the remaining cars placed in positions 13 through 27 depending on the group they were in. Group 1 gets assigned odd number positions, Group 2 gets assigned even. The top 12 that advance to round 2 then have 10 minutes to set the fastest lap time, and the top 6 of round 2 move on to the Fast 6 shootout to determine who starts on pole position. The bottom half of drivers in round 2 get assigned grid positions 7 through 12. The Fast 6 shootout is the shootout for pole and determines grid positions 1 through 6. Oval qualifying isn't as complicated. Each driver does 2 qualifying laps, and their average speed determines their placement for the start of the race. The faster you are, the higher you start. Now let's get to the races themselves. If you think IndyCar is just a bunch of cars going fast around a track, then you are sorely mistaken. There are a whole lot more moving parts to the series. Let's start with the spotters. Spotters are people watching the race from a high elevation point, and their main job is to spot the car they're assigned to. They inform the driver when they're clear to overtake, if there are cars around them, or if there are cautions on track the driver can't see. The spotter is the driver's bird's eye view, and they see almost everything. During a road or street race, you'll hear the commentators mention push to pass a lot. If you're familiar with Formula 1, push to pass is basically the equivalent to DRS in IndyCar. Each driver is allocated 200 seconds of push to pass, which is available to use after the first lap of the race has been completed, barring there are no yellow flags on the second lap. Push to pass gives more speed to the car, helping a driver try to overtake the car in front of them, but it also uses fuel, so drivers have to be strategic when using it. Drivers must also change the type of tire they use at least once during a race. There are 2 types of tires, primaries which last longer, and alternates which make the car go faster but wear easily. The tires are provided by Firestone, and Firestone is the main reason you see a red and yellow bird at the end of races. Now, unlike most racing series, if a driver crashes and their car doesn't have a significant amount of damage, their car can get restarted and they can rejoin the race, albeit they may be in the back or a couple of laps down. I'm talking 10 or 20 laps down. Why would a driver want to rejoin the race and keep going if they're that many laps down? Well, it all comes down to points. The thing about the IndyCar point system is, even if you're last, you still get awarded points. Each position on the track gets awarded points as long as the driver finishes the race. The driver that earns pole during qualifying gets 1 extra point. If a driver leads at least 1 lap during a race, they also get an extra point, and the driver with the most laps led during a race gets 2 extra points. Each point a driver scores affects their standings in the Drivers' Championship, and the driver with the most points at the end of the season is deemed the IndyCar champion. For the 2025 IndyCar race season, there are 17 races spread out across 11 US states and 1 in Toronto. I'm not going to cover them all, but I'll highlight a few. The IndyCar season will officially start on March 2nd on the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida. St. Pete is usually the opener of the IndyCar season. It runs for 100 laps, and with it being a street track, we are in for a lot of cautions and racing action.
You see Rossi, and there's 2 cars side by side.
Big rear lock. Cone hurt. Oh, we're just
Oh!
we have a car up and over. Kyle Kirkwood's involved. That looks like Jack Harvey as well. Rena's
On April 13th, the Monaco of IndyCar will take place at the Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach. Besides the Indy 500, this is the race most IndyCar drivers want to win during their career as an IndyCar driver. Racing 85 laps near the sea and around the titular Dolphin Fountain, Long Beach is one of my favorite races. I am a bit biased though, since it's the race I've been to the most. One of the most appealing races to watch is the Barber Motorsports Park Race Course in Birmingham, Alabama on May 4th. 90 laps around a 17-turn road course, this track is decorated with many artistic sculptures and mannequins and offers a cool contrast of the cars racing past giant animals. And sometimes, these art features can really shake up a race. R.I.P. Georgina. Now there is one race that is the most important to IndyCar and is deemed the greatest spectacle in racing. 500 miles raced around an oval track, the Indianapolis 500 is the ultimate IndyCar race held over the Memorial Day weekend. This isn't just any plain old oval race. This is the race every IndyCar driver wants to win. The Indianapolis 500 features more driver entries than any other IndyCar race, but only 30 drivers can qualify. 200 laps, 4 corners, the winner of the 500 doesn't just cement themselves as an IndyCar legend, but they also get to drink milk and kiss a brick to celebrate. If you live in the US, starting this season, IndyCar will be broadcast on Fox Sports for TV broadcasts and SiriusXM for radio broadcast. For the Fox broadcasting schedule, practice and qualifying will be broadcast on FS1 and the main race will be broadcasted on Fox Sports. IndyCar also has its own radio network on the official IndyCar website that you can listen to during practice, qualifying, and the races themselves. If you're outside the United States, IndyCar has its own subscription service called IndyCar Live. How much access you get depends on the region you're in or what tier you pay for, and I'll link the IndyCar Live website below so you can check to see if IndyCar Live is available in your region. If neither of these options work for you, you can always try VPN or sail the 7 seas to try and find other ways to access IndyCar. I'd also like to highlight the official IndyCar YouTube channel, which posts extended highlights of races a couple of days after they take place, and at the end of the season they post full race replays for you to be able to watch full races without the need for a subscription service. Currently, they're re-uploading races from the 2024 season, so if you want to get some action from last year, I highly recommend checking it out, and I'll link the YouTube channel in the description below. Now, for those that know IndyCar well and think I left a lot out, this video was just meant to be a basic guide for people just getting into the series. If you want a more in-depth breakdown of the series as a whole, I've linked below the official guide that IndyCar made that's posted on their official website. I used a good chunk of it to help me make this video. It has the breakdown for safety, each parts of the car, what each flag means, and other various things that I did not include in this video. When the season officially starts, I plan to do recaps of each race, so if that's something you're interested in, feel free to hit the subscribe button or come back to this channel when the season starts. I'm also working on a basic guide for F1 Academy, so if you're interested in that, feel free to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!